Now, on this topic, this is something that's very controversial, and I've heard you talk about this a little. So, you and I grow fruit trees, and I live right near Hippocrates Health Institute. I love sprouting. I love microgreens. I love sprouts. However, Brian Clement at Hippocrates Health Institute, for people that have a disease, does not recommend fruit. But for people that do have a disease, I mean, that don't have a disease, he says to limit the fruit to only 15% of the diet. And I know you've said not to that degree we should limit it, but do you think, and I asked this question to other guests, is it possible, if you're getting good quality fruit, is it possible to overeat on fruit? And I know an answer could be, well, we could overeat on anything, but is it realistic that you can overeat on fruit? Because I've seen some people eat a lot of fruit and most of their diet's fruit. Is that a good thing or a bad thing in your opinion?
Well, it's a good question, and I'll try to answer it. Because I've had a lot of experience with people on fruitarian and raw food type diets over the years. And science has corroborated what the findings here as well. And that is that when you're younger and your ability to assimilate protein is high, then a diet that's mostly fruit can work okay. But as we get older and we're passing the age of 70, 75, and 80, that means the last 20 years of our life, between 80 and 100 years old. Our ability, because we want to live to be 100 years old if possible, let's say. And this wouldn't matter that much if you're dead at 75, like most Americans, then do whatever you want. But for those of us who are eating healthy to live longer, the ability to assimilate protein goes down with aging. And out of the 5 plant foods, or 6, fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds, intact whole grains. Did I miss anything? Fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, intact whole grains, and beans, right? Of the 5, the only one low in protein is fruit. So when you increase too much, and the ones that are highest in protein are vegetables, beans, and nuts and seeds, okay? So by increasing the fruit in your diet, you're lowering your protein in your diet. As you eat, and that's why all raw may not work well for the elderly, and why some people on raw food diets can have higher risk of pneumonia.
There's different ways to go raw, and the way Hippocrates promotes it. So, like, as good as a bean is, according to Hippocrates, when you sprout that bean into a microgreen, you're getting so much more of abundance of the protein, I guess, that would make up for.
You could eat the bean sprouted, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes, you could
Or
sprout it
into a
or cook it.
microgreen, like a sunflower into a sunflower sprout. So, but
yeah, but you're also turning the sunflower seed or the bean into a vegetable, which lowers its caloric density. Very good for a person looking to lose weight, but maybe not for it's hard to get enough calories. But in any case, there's nothing wrong with eating some nuts and seeds not sprouted anyway. But both are good for sure. I'm not denying the health promoting effects of those foods. But what I'm saying right now is that there's some validity there as we age, and as that there in some individuals, that your immune system, there's something called immunosenescence, the weakening of the immune system, because we don't live forever, and what's going to eventually kill you could be an infection. And that being too fruitarian could enhance immunosenescence due to protein insufficiency as you age. And we do see better outcomes long term when people pay attention to protein adequacy as they get older. And that the studies corroborate this, that enhancing the quality of plant protein with the consumption of green vegetables, broccoli, sprouts, nuts, seeds, and beans are linked to enhancement in lifespan. So I'm not saying a person can't eat 30% of their diet from fruit, 40% of the diet from fruit. I probably do that, 30%, 40% range. But I want to pay attention to that 60 or 70% that I'm getting enough protein and enough exposure from vegetables, beans. I don't want to go to 50 to 60, 70% from fruit, because now I'm getting 70. I want to maintain my muscle mass, my strength, my physical activity. And I know some fruitarian guys who are very physically fit and have a lot of muscle and doing great, but I don't think they're going to do that great when they pass the age of 80. you start to higher ability making muscle tissue and building so much protein. So at that point, I think that we may be valuable to making sure you consume enough calories from the higher protein plant foods, including hemp seeds and soybeans. You know what I mean? To make sure you have adequate protein availability. Because everybody else is telling you to eat meat. We're just saying, eat some edamame and some hemp seeds in your diet, and don't make it all fruit. We're not telling you to eat meat, but in any case, you know what I'm saying. This is also the people say, you know what people do wrong in the vegan movement so much? There have been a lot of leaders in the vegan movement and have got people afraid of eating fat, right? The low-fat vegan diet. And they make statements like, or they have made statements like, putting fat in your diet with nuts is going to interfere with your insulin sensitivity and raise your blood glucose. Or the fat you eat is going to make you fat, right? And if you say, okay, where are your studies to document that, right? What are the studies that made you come to these conclusions? And you look at the studies they list, and they're not studies on nuts and seeds. They're studies on oil. Oil are not the same thing as nuts and seeds. Oil comes into the bloodstream at 50 calories a minute. You flood the body with a huge amount of oil, you're going to inhibit glucose absorption and distort the insulin receptors. And you're going to lead to, but nuts and seeds go into the bloodstream at 1 or 2 calories a minute. It takes so long to break down the fat from nuts and seeds into the absorption that the body has that slow level of fat entering the bloodstream, that steady state. The body preferentially burns it for energy. And the studies show it doesn't interfere with glucose, with insulin sensitivity. And it doesn't raise your body glucose when you eat it with fruit. And it doesn't do the things they're claiming it does. So they're extrapolating the negativity of oil and putting it onto nuts and seeds in a distorted and unfair way. So you have to recognize that. It's body fat that makes you insulin resistant, and it's eating oil and animal fats that make you insulin resistance, not the consumption of pumpkin seeds and flax seeds and chia seeds and walnuts and sesame seeds. You know what I mean? So they're getting people afraid of eating any kind of fatty foods, even if they're natural whole foods, which is really unjustified and has moved the vegan discussion into a field of radicalism that's not scientifically supported. And these people who have gotten such degree of a guru status in the vegan community have had an excessive amount of leadership respect to move the vegan masses to this distorted way of thinking about food. Just eat the healthy food. You don't have to avoid nuts. You don't have to avoid, and plus the fact that we want nutritional variety is my point. My point is eat a lot of different stuff. Eat a lot of different plant stuff. Don't just eat a macrobiotic diet, just eat rice. Don't just eat white potatoes. Eat a lot of things, know, and eat a lot of green vegetables and mushrooms and onions, because that's really good for you.
Have you seen in your studies with people taking blood work that people that eat a higher fruit diet possibly have high cholesterol, or you haven't seen a connection with that?
No, I haven't. I've seen when people follow this Nutritarian diet, which is well balanced with greens and beans and nuts and mushrooms, they see radical drop in their cholesterols, and I have published studies on that on large numbers of people, including drop in blood pressure. Plus the fact that, just to give an example, when people come to my retreat here, they get rid of their diabetes in the first month. 80% of them are type 2 diabetes is gone. And I published studies on that, and I published studies on how fast their blood pressure gets better and how fast they lose weight. And you know what? Here's what's also not where I have this slight criticism of Brian. I love what he does, and I love the amount of people he can help with his recommendations. But when the people go home and try to live with that diet, it's so extreme that they can't follow it, and they go back to eating their old diet, and they gain the weight back. My concern is that the chance of recidivism is so high. By taking all that fruit out, and you can't make a healthy dessert, you can't eat a mango, and you're restricting so many foods needlessly, like eating some chickpeas, or you're eating so many foods you've taken out of the diet, that the diet now becomes so restrictive, the person's never going to follow it long term. And it does you no good to follow a healthy diet if it's short term. It's only good if you can incorporate it for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
So when you make it that radical, even if it was better for that, and nobody can do it, But people could criticize me the same way, of course, but
Sure,
at least I feel that what I'm recommending is livable and enjoyable to live this way for the rest of your life.
sure. And what about food combining? Do you see any uh, good thing about that, or you think it's old data that's not necessary today? Like, do you think it matters if you eat fruit with nuts, or you think they should definitely be avoided and things like
No,
this?
I think the opposite of food combining. Matter of fact, I want us to mix the foods together in the meal instead of separating them. So I want your fruit to be eaten with a salad and some vegetable bean soup and some nuts and a little bit of fruit for dessert, because now you've taken your 400 to 500 calories, where the overall gastric emptying and absorption has been slowed down, so it eases even the fruit calories into the bloodstream. So yeah, I'd rather you have, three 400 to 500 calorie meals a day where you have mixed foods in the meal, because you're having green vegetables with every meal, and you're having a mixture of different food types with your meal, so you're not going to have just all fruit with a meal. So yeah, I think it's better not to food combine, and there's no data to suggest that food combining has the benefits Dr. Shelton claimed, except for the fact that when people narrow their food choices to just one or two types in a meal, it helps people not overeat or get satisfied with fewer calories. That could be an advantage for some people. But basically, if you can keep your caloric window favorable and not overeat, it's better to have variety and not
Sure,
worry about food combining. So let's reiterate that. The main advantage of food combining is not to overeat. And the main disadvantage of it's better to have variety in your diet, but also we have to know our caloric windows and not eat till we're full when digestive capacity is lost, and keep ourselves at a favorable lean weight. Look at these guys who are like on natural hygiene type diets and healthy, even healthy plant-based diets, and they're still overweight and have a thick and fatty midsection. You know what I mean? That's still not healthy. There's no such thing as a healthy person with a belly, you know?
100%, 100%.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the